Hello, I'm Lara, the founder of Lagos Cocktail, and this is the Lagos Cocktail Podcast. Today, we'll be talking about a sensitive subject, standardization of bartenders' salary in Nigeria. And with me is Anita Okoye. So let me introduce our speaker today. Anita Okoye is a human resource professional with expertise in hospitality, supporting Nigeria and global teams. She's also the founder of HR Unfiltered and the head of HR at Nowhere Lagos.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So it was important that we speak to a human resource specialist about this topic. It's really a sensitive one in the industry.
Yeah.
And we posted on our page a few days ago a comment by one of our followers, who I believe is a bartender. And he or she says that the regulation of bartender salary in Nigeria is very important, and that most of his or her colleague in the industry would like for us to talk about it. So that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Now, when we made that post, we got some comments, but I want us to touch on two comments that stood out. So one of the comments says, how can a bartender be paid 80,000 naira and a bar manager who comes in most of the time and does nothing gets paid so much? And he closed with a comment, or she closed with a comment saying, if you're paid more, do more. So what would you say to this person?
To be honest, that's actually a very good question. It's a question that has come up a couple of times during the course of my career in hospitality. There has to be a regulation of salaries in hospitality. You need to understand that salaries are, first of all, role-based before performance-based. And in the bartending department, there are different levels. So the lowest level is the barback. Then we have the junior bartender, the senior bartender. We have the bar supervisor. Then we have the bar manager. Definitely, a barback won't earn the same thing with a junior bartender. Definitely. A junior bartender won't earn the same with a senior bartender. Now, how do we then know what particular salary to allot to each roles? That's where the question comes in. And it begins at even before the recruitment phase. In hospitality, hospitality businesses in Nigeria are not really, they are not really structured. There is a slow pace in standardizing and structuring the hospitality businesses as opposed to what is obtainable and attainable in other corporate organizations in different sectors. So I remember that as at 4 years back, the idea of even having a human resource professional or a human resource manager in hospitality was not something that business owners even welcomed with open arms. So there was resistance to the essence or importance of human resource in hospitality. But this is not what we see in other corporate organizations, in other sectors like maybe oil and gas, in real estate. But I noticed that 2 years ago, hospitality have slowly gained progress. We are now opening our doors to, bringing in structure into the business. We are not where we want to be yet, but we are a far cry from where we used to be. One of the challenges that we are facing now in hospitality is the fact that many of the business owners, people who set up hospitality business, and this can be quite controversial, they don't really understand the business of hospitality.
Okay.
If they do understand the business of hospitality, they would know that hospitality is more than just having a beautiful space for a restaurant. There are certain things that you should not ignore when setting up your business. If you want your business to be sustainable, there has to be structure.
Yes.
So when it comes to salaries, for example, salaries are role-based. And how do we determine what a bartender should earn? You look at things like, okay, if I want to peg a salary to this role, the questions that you ask first is, what's the value of this role to my business? The role of a bartender is the bartenders are revenue drivers of the business, just like the people in the kitchen, right? So you know that this role is critical to your business operations.
Yes.
So they drive the revenue of the business. Making profit is another thing. Of course, we know that bartenders, maybe sometimes they see the figures and maybe they delude themselves into believing that, oh, because the business made 4 million naira today, that means there's enough money to go around, so they should increase my salary. That's just revenue. So knowing that the role of a bartender is one that brings in revenue into the business, they should be fairly compensated. That's a fact. Now, the second thing you look at when you are trying to put a salary structure in place is what's the skill set and the experience of the person that is coming on board. How do I know if this person should be a junior bartender or a senior bartender or a bar manager? Now, I look at your years of hands-on experience. The role of a bartender is more skill-based than knowledge-based.
Sure.
And it's not a role that, should there be a time in the restaurant where you are short-staffed in the bar team, you can tell somebody in housekeeping or on the floor, okay, you know what, go and support the bar team. You can't do that because they lack the skill for that role. But guess what? You can tell a bartender to go to the floor to support the waiters. You can tell a bartender to go to the floor, support the housekeepers, but you can't do that when bartenders are short-staffed. So knowing that this is a skill-based role and it's a role that requires years of hands-on experience, not theoretically, they have to have practical experience. I think that role has to first of all be regarded. And what we see now in hospitality is that there is no real regard or true regard for the role of bartenders. Now, another thing we look out for is the exposure of the person that has come in for the bartender position. We look at if you have an international exposure. An international exposure does not necessarily mean that you have actually traveled the world or you have left Nigeria. Have you worked in places that has gained you exposure to tourists, people from different countries? Have you worked in places that have diverse menu where we know that, okay, you cannot only make drinks that our locals love, but you make drinks that, you know, people from other countries also love.
Yes, like classic
exactly.
cocktails, yes.
So we look at this before knowing what salary to give a person, what remuneration to offer somebody who is a prospective employee. We look at your skill set, we look at your years of hands-on experience. Another thing that most bartenders do not know is that actually can make or mar them, not just during the interview process, but can determine or that gives us a glimpse of the value that you add to our business is your interpersonal skill. There's a reason why we have stools around the bar, because we know that there are people that come into the restaurant not necessarily to have a meal, but they just want to have a drink. Now, you show us that you are of value to us, not just by mixing and pouring drinks. How do you communicate? So I look out for people with good communication skills, because at the end of the day, you are going to be communicating with our guests, you're customer facing.
Yes.
Can you engage a customer in an intelligent conversation? Can you engage a customer and recommend the kind of drinks that when you recommend, they would not reject? So these are the things that we look out for, because they have a direct impact to our bottom line.
Yes.
So aside the fact that you are very good at mixing drinks or pouring drinks, do you have good interpersonal skills? Do you have international exposure? And another thing, bartenders neglect to build their personal brand, many of them. That's why, and this is even a topic for another day, that's why you see expatriates come in, and because of their perceived value, they are being paid more than the local bartenders, though that has an advantage and a disadvantage. But the question this person asked about her manager coming in, not doing so much, and then he or she's being paid more than them, that's a performance issue. But bar managers ideally should earn more than their bartenders, because they have more hands-on experience under their belts than the junior ones. And their responsibility is not even one that you can actually see. It's not something that they come and do every day. It's not tactical. The role is more strategic in the sense that they're responsible for training and mentoring the junior ones. They're responsible for maintaining the standard in that bar or that restaurant, if they can't maintain the standard, maybe set a higher standard for your business. They are also responsible for the performance of the team, responsible for compliance. They are responsible for the, inventory management. So this is not something that they come to do every day. It's not something that you can see with your eyes if you're not really observant.
Yes.
And if anything good or bad happens at that bar, or in that bar rather, best believe that your bar manager will be the one who will be held responsible for it. So on the outside, it may look like they're not doing so much, so why should they earn so much? But truly, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yes.
So if your bar manager is being paid the amount that he's being paid and he's not doing any of these things, then there's a statement she made. If you're being paid more,
You should do more. Yes.
Then it's now a performance issue because it's not living up to expectation.
Well, I mean, you said a lot, and I'm happy that you're saying this, because I believe that a role should be value driven, and like you said, interpersonal skills is really important, because the reason why, like you said, the chairs around the bar is because of people who would come to the bar and they want to engage with the bartender. People want to tell their stories. I know I've said it time without number that it's called the customer journey. From when the customer comes into a place, it should start getting that treatment that I'm in the right place. From the smile at the door, from the way you take the order, from the way you engage them. It's something, those things are very, very important. I had a guest who came from America, and he kept coming to Nowhere, Lagos. And he said the reason why he kept coming was because of the bar team. He said because of the bar team. And the truth is, I'd never been here before. But when he said it, I had to come with him.
Wow.
It was Nowhere, Lagos, and another establishment that he mentioned. And it was really because of the bar team.
Yeah.
He has never forgotten, even now, when he sends me a message, hey, Lara, are you still seeing the people from Nowhere? And he's gonna keep saying that.
Yeah.
So I personally feel like, sometimes, yes, 80,000 Naira is what you're being paid. But the question is, what are you given? What value? How do you see yourself in that establishment?
Yeah.
And like you said, it's performance based, for the bartenders, as opposed to the bar manager who has a lot of responsibilities. So I think, whoever asked this question, I hope we've been able to respond, to this question that you asked. Now, moving further, there was another person who made a comment, and I would like to read that just so you can, you can tell us from your professional perspective. So he said, I worked for an organization for a full month, diligently, under pressure, through sleepless nights and hard labor. During this period, a so-called auditor felt entitled to speak to me disrespectfully, a clear reflection of the toxic and unprofessional work culture within the organization. I chose self-respect. I resigned formally, submitted my resignation letter, and exited professionally. Despite this, management decided it was acceptable to withhold my salary owed since July 2025. So this is over 6 months ago. What do you say to this person?
I would say that there are different layers to this story.
Okay.
So first of all, this is somebody who is speaking about, you are presenting yourself to be one who is respectful, but from the second sentence saying a so-called auditor,
Yes.
a so-called auditor spoke to you disrespectfully. Or I think
felt entitled to speak to me disrespectfully.
Entitled to speak to her disrespectfully. One thing that I have come to see with blue collar workers is that managing them is not just a walk in the park. It's quite difficult managing blue collar workers as opposed to white collar workers. So first of all, an auditor in the hierarchical structure is way, 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 way above even a senior bartender. The auditor audits every operation in that business. So maybe with the authority that he had, by reason of the office that he occupied, came to him and spoke assertively, but then that was misconstrued to be disrespectfully. Maybe that was the case.
Yeah.
I don't know. But if that was the case, then that's not him being disrespectful. he's actually above you in the hierarchical structure. Now, secondly, she also mentioned that
I'm not sure it's a he or a
I don't know
she.
why I keep
So is
using
it he or
she.
she?
Okay. So this person also mentioned
Yes.
that, they resigned formally. That leaves room for interpretation.
Yes.
Somebody can tell you that they resigned formally by tendering their resignation letter. But when your contract states that you should give at least 2 weeks or 1 month notice, you're dropping your resignation letter and leaving immediately is not a formal way of resigning.
Sure.
So the company is within their right to withhold your salary. If the company tells you that you have to give 2 weeks in lieu of notice or a month in lieu of notice, and you just come and drop your resignation letter and do not work 1 month in lieu of that notice that you had given, they are within their right to withhold that salary. But if you tendered your resignation letter
Yes.
and you worked the whole duration of the notice that you had given them and they still withheld without giving you a reasonable excuse,
Yes.
then they are in compliance of they are not in compliance of the labor law, right? And that has its consequences. So they are in the wrong.